Dr. Nigel Clarke, Finance Minister Budget Debate Presentation. So, Mr. Clarke used some minutes out of his speech to address the lashed out that opposition Mark Golding did when he criticized the Speaker of the House, Mistress Holness. Let's listen what he had to say.
It was the Deputy Speaker who was elected to replace the outgoing Speaker, not simply the wife. The fact that in the statement or the speech you refer to her as the wife, not recognizing her 3-year tenure as Deputy Speaker and therefore the natural successor, is, in my view, disrespectful to the highest degree. Madam Speaker, as others have pointed out, we on this side, and there are others on the outside, who thought that that was low. Firstly, Madam Speaker, the Speaker of the House served as Deputy Speaker of the House for 3 years, between September 2020 and November 2023. And during that time, she acted as Speaker on several occasions. So it was the Deputy Speaker who was elected to replace the outgoing Speaker, not simply the wife. The fact that in the statement or the speech you refer to her as the wife, not recognizing her 3-year tenure as Deputy Speaker and therefore the natural successor, is, in my view, disrespectful to the highest degree. Madam Speaker, as others have pointed out, we on this side, and there are others on the outside, who thought that that was low. Firstly, Madam Speaker, the Speaker of the House served as Deputy Speaker of the House for 3 years, between September 2020 and November 2023. And during that time, she acted as Speaker on several occasions. So it was the Deputy Speaker who was elected to replace the outgoing Speaker, not simply the wife. The fact that in the statement or the speech you refer to her as the wife, not recognizing her 3-year tenure as Deputy Speaker and therefore the natural successor, is, in my view, disrespectful to the highest degree. Madam Speaker, as others have pointed out, we on this side, and there are others on the outside, who thought that that was low. Firstly, Madam Speaker, the Speaker of the House served as Deputy Speaker of the House for 3 years, between September 2020 and November 2023. And during that time, she acted as Speaker on several occasions. So it was the Deputy Speaker who was elected to replace the outgoing Speaker, not simply the wife. The fact that in the statement or the speech you refer to her as the wife, not recognizing her 3-year tenure as Deputy Speaker and therefore the natural successor, is, in my view, disrespectful to the highest degree. Madam Speaker, as others have pointed out, we on this side, and there are others on the outside, who thought that that was low.
Tanya Stevenson made a comment and said, her 3-year tenure is insignificant in the face of the problem raised. Wife could be neutral, but when a problem arises which seems based on a biased wife becomes a problem. Hence, a wife must be called into question. Nothing about public servants' ability to carry out their job without prejudice should be above reproach. This is gaslighting. Well,
tenure as Deputy Speaker and therefore the natural successor is, in my view, disrespectful to the highest degree. Madam Speaker, as others have pointed out, we on this side, and Madam Speaker, at the moment,
Cabinet has given approval for the creation of 3,813 permanent posts at the SWMA effective April 1.
mechanics, Madam Speaker, all of the working people in NSWMA and its subsidiaries for the past 30 years approximately, Madam Speaker, we're actors, as the minister is saying, on contract. But under this government, Madam Speaker, the permanent post has been created. And in the upcoming fiscal year, we will make workers in the NSWMA and their subsidiaries permanent. Time comes for permanent employment, Madam Speaker.
So during the budget presentation, Dr. Nigel Clarke had issued several red cards to the parliamentary oppositions. Some people are saying he's the best finance minister. I'm not sure about that, but it's their opinion. It's their opinion. This person said all of this does not change the facts. She's been biased because she is the wife of the prime minister. Tax Administration Jamaica has forked out nearly $4 million of taxpayers' money over the past 3 years to rent two buildings it yet to occupied. Me give self red card most corruption government in the Caribbean island bro by far. Boy, them politicians feel them strong. Come with you. One man share cut the gear, Mark Gold in a share cut the place. Mark Gold in a shake up the place. Several red cards were shown. Time come, time come, time come. Time come, time come, time come. Time waits and no man. Just time waits and no man. We are going on. We shall pass. position.
Photographers and all who work
Sorry
in
about
houses
that.
of parliament for your dedication and professionalism. Thanks, Madam Speaker, to the Financial Secretary and the entire staff of the Ministry of Finance. And thanks to my security deep Mr. Vaz. But in the context of the campaign, she was the Jamaica Labour Party candidate for the seat. It would have been better had the opposition leader said the move to replace her with the Deputy Speaker of the House, who happens to be the wife of the Prime Minister, etc., etc., etc. But completely ignoring her position in the House, Madam Speaker, was absolutely and reducing her to only one component, that of wife, was disrespectful, Madam Speaker, and should not be repeated. Madam Speaker, the Deputy Speaker acted, as I said, many times as Speaker for 3 years. And never once, to the best of my knowledge, did any member rise to his or her feet to provide any objection on the account of a marital relationship with the Prime Minister. When the Deputy Speaker was nominated to fill the role of Speaker, her nomination was seconded by none other than the leader of opposition business, the member from East Kingston and Port Royal, who, Mr. Philip Paul, who rose to his feet and said, Madam Speaker, I beg to second the motion. The Speaker was then unanimously elected by both sides of the House with cheers and applause. The former leader of the opposition, the member from St. Andrew East. Now, because for people listening, don't know East Phillips, a few sittings later, without invitation or solicitation, rose to his feet on his own accord and addressed the Speaker directly, looking at her and saying, a major impulse that brought me here today was to see you in your elevated position. Madam Speaker, and he emasculates and undermines his own colleagues, Madam Speaker. It may not be good for their party, but it's certainly not good for Jamaica. And the member from St. Andrew Southeastern, who has responsibility to shadow. How can we rely on his word? He's publicly ridiculed, emasculated, and undermined. That is not leadership, Madam Speaker, that anyone can trust. Madam Speaker, the opposition leader can publicly emasculate Philip and Julian. They may not have people to speak up for them, but let me tell you this, don't touch Juliet. Madam Speaker, under this government, even after the worst economic crisis in our history, Jamaica's macroeconomic fundamentals are the strongest they've been for 50 years. And we're leveraging that economic stability in the people.
Minister be allowed. The question is that the minister be allowed sufficient time to complete his presentation. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Minister?
Yes, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker, members of the House. So we've been fed this narrative, Madam Speaker, which is based on the fact that the IMF agreement did collapse. But it did not collapse because the government didn't have fiscal responsibility. Yeah. It collapsed because fiscal responsibility, there was not a social concept. The Portia Simpson administration started with $2 billion in net international reserves, and they ended with $2.2 billion in net international reserves. And approximately $1 billion of it, or half, represented by borrowed reserves or certificates of deposits or CDs. Madam Speaker, we took the baton with $2.2 billion of reserves, and now there are $4.7 billion of reserves. And CDs have been reduced dramatically to only $85 million. That's all? Out of the 4.7. Madam Speaker, there was a time that the three words, the screens, let's go. There was a time, Madam Speaker, that the three words that would confuse the opposition were Jamaica Labour Party. Madam Speaker, over the last 7 years, something else that now confuses the opposition, Madam Speaker, is no new taxes. If you don't believe me, look at their faces when I say it again. No new taxes for 7 consecutive years. Madam Speaker, it makes them delirious because that are not true and things sometimes that don't make any sense.
Exactly.
Madam Speaker, I want you to pay attention to me in particular here. The opposition leader in his presentation puts up a chart, Madam Speaker, that purports to show revenue growth over the period of this government.
Revenue growth.
This is the chart. And I have, Madam Speaker, I don't know any other way to say it other than I have not seen a more deceptive chart in this house than this. Madam Speaker, he shows 2015-16. He does not show 2016-17. He does not show 2017-18. He does not show 2018-19. Nor 2019-20. And he certainly does not show 2020-21. Wait a minute. Wait. Madam Speaker, when was COVID again? When was COVID? What year? 2020? So he's showing a chart of revenues of this administration that deliberately leaves out the COVID year and the years after. And then he shows 21, 22, 22, 23, and 23, 24 projections, Madam Speaker. It's like he's playing peekaboo. Peekaboo. That's a chart here. Him show 2015, 16, leave out all the other years, and he play peekaboo. Peekaboo. The first question, Madam Speaker, is why would he do it? Why would he hide the period 2016-17 to 2021? Why would he do that? Why would he do that? Red card, Madam Speaker, for him. Red card. He then said, Madam Speaker, that revenues have doubled, Madam Speaker, and that, I would say, over 9 years, isn't that a good thing? Isn't that point? That revenue is going up in an environment of no new taxes? Madam Speaker, there is no PNP government that has presided over Jamaica with a 9-year stretch of continuously increasing tax revenues in real terms without the imposition of any new taxes. They're simply confused, and their confusion present charts that skip over years and are therefore deceptive, Madam Speaker. The average annual rate of, I'm going to show you, the average annual rate of increases in tax revenues over the entire period, Madam Speaker, is 9.4% per annum. That's the compounded annual increase in tax revenues over the period budgeted for 24-25, going all the way back to actual 2015-2016. Yeah? What happened, Madam Speaker, and what the opposition leader income tax revenue has grown over that period by $190 billion. Faster than the average growth rate of revenues. It has outpaced revenue growth. In addition, Madam Speaker, or not in addition, just remind you that revenues have increased substantially as unemployment declined from 13% to 4%. And we had, under this administration, 30 quarters of economic growth. Broken by COVID, yeah, but you add up the two periods, 20 and 30 quarters of economic growth. But if it not occurred to you, there is no administration in 50 years that has presided over collectively 30 quarters of economic growth, Madam Speaker. Now, what do you think happens in such an environment? income tax revenues increase. There, as at 2022, there were 200,000 more cars on the road compared to 2016. Education tax revenue similarly increased by 152% over the period, or $32 billion, for a compounded annual increase of 10.8% per annum, outpacing overall revenue growth. Madam Speaker, under our Minister of Tourism, travel tax is up. It's up by 236% over that period. That's an average annual compounded growth of 14.4% and represents $24 billion more in revenue than in 2015-16. And one that nobody has been paying attention to is that him now watch what we're going on. Him just a wing it. Madam Speaker, under this government, since this government came to office, the economy has doubled in size. And it's on that chart from $1.688 trillion to $3.289 trillion. Now, if there's no new tax and the economy double, then tax revenue must double too. Who is he really trying to fool? This aspect of his presentation shows contempt, Madam Speaker, for the Jamaican people, with these deceptive claims advanced by leaving it out. Under this government, the average economic output of every Jamaican has nearly doubled from approximately $614,936 to $1,198,470, Madam Speaker, by March of 2025. So again, I say, even with no new taxes, tax revenues per person doubles along the doubling of economic output per person. Now, Madam Speaker, let me just talk about tax revenues as a percentage of GDP. Let me begin this section, Madam Speaker, by just a definition of tax expenditure. Tax expenditures, Madam Speaker, as would exist if we did not show the tax expenditures, Madam Speaker. Yes, so I'm adding, but the tax expenditure statement is also submitted. This one I'm not claiming that you're deceiving. This one you picked up, I'm not claiming that. This one, we have tax expenditure statements, Madam Speaker, and the tax expenditure statements show, Madam Speaker, that when you look at our tax revenues as a proportion of GDP, before tax expenditures, it is much more even. What is happening is that the government, more of the revenues on the books is coming to the government, and we are not giving away. And who benefits from tax wealth? A lot, yeah, it's usually, businesses, right? Tax, NHT, and NIS. These are the persons who will qualify for the reverse income tax credit, and anyone else regularized before the end of the fiscal year. And there are 450,000 approximately persons who earn less than 1.5 million who contribute to the system through a deduction of education tax, NHT, and NIS. Madam Speaker, this includes many security guards, room attendants, factory floor workers. And including that tax package was a broadening of the GCT net to include raw foods. There was some protest or representation, and the government in June of that year came back and revised it and took it off of, in other words, left the domestic as it was before. So prior to June of 2012, domestic raw foods and the foreign raw foods were equally treated with respect to GCT. Neither category of goods attracted GCT. Now, we got into this position of a lopsided imbalance in the application of GCT on raw foods because of the need for revenue, not protection. Now, Madam Speaker, the imposition of GCT on foreign produced raw foods, but not local produced raw foods, violated binding trade agreements to which Jamaica is a party. It's not a gray area. It is black and white. Madam Speaker, the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, GATT, is a multilateral, legally binding agreement that regulates trade among more than 153 countries in the world. By now it might be 160, I don't have the exact number. It was entered into 1947 and Jamaica became a contracting party of the GATT. It operate without principle, flip-flop, changing when the wind suits or when it seems politically expedient, Madam Speaker. This is another example of an unprincipled approach. And Madam Speaker, the opposition leader asks, whose bidding am I doing? Madam Speaker, is out of order. I am upholding the rule of law and having Jamaica honor our international, legal, binding obligation. Revenue. If you listen, you will learn about this, okay? Madam Speaker, Jamaica needed the revenue in 2012, and so presumably, I'm not saying it is so, I mean, presumably, the decision was made on the basis of, kind of catch me if you can, right? In 2012. Well, Madam Speaker, Jamaica indeed was caught. First by CARICOM. CARICOM got wind of this breach of international law and wrote to Jamaica demanding that changes be made so that its members were not subject to unfair trade practices. Madam Speaker, Jamaica quickly complied. No, okay. Trust me on this, okay? Jamaica and the Portia Simpson Miller administration changed the law in 2014 to ensure that foreign raw goods produced in CARICOM member states were exempt from GCT, Madam Speaker. That was in 2014. But they were caught by CARICOM. Fast forward, Madam Speaker, to 2023. Jamaica, representatives of the World Trade Organization visited Jamaica in November of 2023 for a customary group in this regard, which includes the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, and the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, inclusive of the Jamaica Customs Agency. Each of the parties to the working group will engage stakeholders in their sector. For the Ministry of Agriculture, no, you are totally confused. Madam Speaker, to uphold it, but we, at some point in this fiscal year, will bring an amendment, but we can choose the time that amendment is brought. And as I mentioned, Madam Speaker, we will have a committee, a multi-stakeholder committee, Madam Speaker, to look at the additional stamp duty regime, Madam Speaker, to make the best decisions going forward, taking into account multiple points of view. Madam Speaker, just some. The opposition spokesperson of finance made the comment, past funds have not kept up with inflation. That's not correct, Madam Speaker. It's not correct. That is a basic fact, Madam Speaker. It was 21.2, and in 2021, it was 16.7%. And Madam Speaker, in its quarterly report for August 2023, For those who are paying attention, the PIOJ reported that they are projecting a fall even from 16.7%. And furthermore, in October 2023, the World Bank released their estimate of poverty for 2022. I don't know if they'll be correct or not. And there was an idea and there's work done on it and stuff brought to the board, that I was a part of. There's no way it could be done at that time. But as tangible evidence, Speaker, in 2009, former Minister in the Ministry of Finance, Don Webby, proposed that the BOJ set up a monetary policy committee to determine interest rates. Yeah, you see that article there? That's 2009. Don Webby, restructure BOJ. Webby proposes new central bank model, proposes committee, right? And he wouldn't have been the first. So these ideas existed from then and indeed were being pursued, but in reality they could not be achieved. This is a problem that has been around for 20 years or longer, maybe 30 years, where people are employed temporarily, have no security of tenure, cannot get a mortgage, and can't live normal lives, don't have pension on their retirement. This has been the reality in Jamaica long before this administration, for at least 20 years before this administration, if not more. And the policy position of this government is that we are determined over a period of time, and last year I gave 3 years, right? Over a 3-year period to address this problem. Madam Speaker, the process though of addressing the problem is challenging and long. There's a lot of paperwork that has to be done, which I won't get into. But I am pleased, Madam Speaker, to update this House that with respect to the National Solid Waste Management Authority and its 4 regional companies, the Cabinet has given the approval for 3,813 new posts to be created. The National Solid Waste Management Authority, MPM Waste Management Authority, NEMPM Waste Management, SPM Waste Management, and WPM Waste Management Authority. Madam Speaker, at the moment, there are only 269 posts. Everybody else is on contract. Sanitation workers, truck drivers, route supervisors, enforcement officers, mechanics, Madam Speaker, all of the working people in NSWMA and its subsidiaries for the past 30 years approximately, Madam Speaker, we're actors, as the Minister is saying, on contract. But under this government, Madam Speaker, the permanent post has been created. And in the upcoming fiscal year, we will make workers in the NSWMA and their subsidiaries permanent. Time comes for permanent employment, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, we have, Mr. Speaker, there is there's a slight change to the provision on importation of armored cars for the security industry. Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, which we are tabling here today. I don't have it on me. But Mr. Speaker, this is a significant budget. This is the ninth budget of his administration, Mr. Speaker. And this is the seventh consecutive year of absolutely no new taxes. And Mr. Speaker, we have demonstrated that we are a government that believes in economic freedom, and we are also a government that believes in social justice. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister announced a groundbreaking measure that will have a tremendous impact on inequality in Jamaica with the creation of the Jamaica 60 trust funds that he announced, Mr. Speaker. And he'll have more to say about that in time. He raised the minimum wage from 13,000 to 15,000, Mr. Speaker. And provided a raft of benefits for persons in seeking housing. Importantly, which has not been carried sufficiently in the media, he announced that the work will begin this year for regularization of a number of informal communities across the country with a $15 billion program that will begin on the capital side of the budget next year. Mr. Speaker, in addition to that, we are implementing for the first time a reverse income tax credit, which will apply $20,000 to all Jamaicans earning below $3 million who contribute to the Jamaican system. We will be increasing the pension exemption and the age exemption such that pensioners who are over the age of 65 and who earn more than the current income tax threshold of 1.5 million will have the opportunity for $135,000 more. Poverty increased from 16.7% to... Speaker, this is inaccurate, and it is beneath the leader of the opposition to mislead in this way. He knows that the rate of 16.7% is for 2021, 3 years ago, yet he speaks of it as if it is a current figure. He doesn't even put a date for it. He puts a date for the 11%, but you notice the date for the 16.7 is not there. Madam Speaker, he knows that the Jamaican Labour Party administration began in February 2016. And he knows that in 2015, under the PNP, the incidence of poverty was 21.2%. Madam Speaker, the incidence of poverty in Jamaica, even in the midst of the devastating COVID-19 pandemic.
You know, I've listened to the torrent of what he's had to say. But on this particular point, I was quoting from the most recent Jamaica survey of living conditions. I was quoting from that, which is a government publication. So, red card.
He may be quoting from a survey of living conditions, but he knows that the rate is for 2021. It's in the public domain. So, my Speaker, and more than that, he knows that the rate of poverty for 2015 under their government was 21.2%. Now, if you start at 21.2%, and even after COVID, you're at 16.7%, how can you stand and tell the people of Jamaica that poverty has increased? Madam Speaker, red card.
Red card.
Misleading the House. Misleading the House. Misleading. And we are also a government that believes in social justice. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister announced a groundbreaking measure that will have a tremendous impact on inequality in Jamaica with the creation of the Jamaica 60 trust funds that he announced, Mr. Speaker. And he'll have more to say about that in time. He raised the minimum wage. In housing.
So several red cards.
Members, the question is that we recommit announcements and notices of motions given orally. Those in favor? Those against?